Hey guys, so we are working on acrylic shaping and filing. This is starting off with square, and as you can see where I put my file, we want that tip to be even with the natural sidewalls of the nail. This will ensure that your shape stays crisp even after application. It just performs a guideline. It doesn't have to be perfect because you'll also file again after application. Now we're hand filing. You want to start off with the sides of the nail, making sure they are crisp and aligned with the natural sidewalls of the nail, making sure that you're having that nice square shape. And then you're going to file on top of the nail, getting rid of any bulkiness. I go at an angle on the sides just to make sure that it doesn't look wide or bulky in certain areas. And then I also go towards the free edge to make sure it's a crisp and clean square shape. Now I'm going in with my e-file. I'm using the 5-in-1 bit. I'm sealing the cuticle first, and then I'm debulking anything that I need to get rid of while also kind of sort of buffing out the nail, getting rid of the scratches that I made with the file, and then I'm also cleaning up that free edge as well to really get that clean C-curve shape. After all the filing and shaping, your square nail should look like this, nice and straight on the sides and a crisp free edge. Now moving on to almond, I am getting curved clippers and I am clipping off those corners at an angle just to help out with filing, just so that I don't have to file as much and I already start off having that almond shape. What I'm doing, same thing with the squares, I'm evening out that sidewall, making it flush with the sidewalls of the natural nail. And then I'm also smoothing out those corners that I had just cut, making a nice almond shape. Please ignore the application in this video on all of these nails, but we are starting off again, same thing with the square nail, cleaning up the sides, the sidewalls, making sure they're nice and clean, and then we're going in and debulking on top of the nail, getting rid of any lumps, bumps that may have happened during application. I like to do majority of my debulking with the hand file because it's easier for me to control versus the e-file. In my opinion, almond is the hardest shape for me personally. You always want to make sure that your almond is even, and a lot of people have different preferences with the almond shape as well, so it's really just up to you and your client. But this is how I personally like my almonds. I feel like this is a very moderate. It's not too tapered, it's not too wide. I feel like it's just right and it comes to a nice point. Now going in with the e-file, same thing. Sealing the cuticle and then going on top of the nail, debulking, getting rid of any bumps, lumps, mist, kind of sort of buffing out the nail. This 5-in-1 bit honestly gets those cracks out the way, so like whenever I do nail art, I don't feel like I need to buff the nail out. But this is how your almond nail should look like after shaping and filing, nice and even on the sides. Now moving on to the stiletto shape, we're going to do the same thing we did with the almond nail. You could use straight or curved clippers, whichever one works best for you. But we're going to go in with that file, making sure that the sidewalls are even with the natural nail, and then also going in and really making that point at the end of the nail. It really depends on the preference of your client. Some clients don't want them too sharp, but some want them really sharp. This is how your stiletto nail should look like after shaping the tip, and then after application, you're going to go in with your hand file again. A lot of this will get very repetitive, but again, we are cleaning up the sidewalls, making sure that they're nice and even with the sidewalls of the natural nail, and then you're going to get rid of any lumps, bumps created during application. If you're a beginner and you're still working on your application, you might have to do a lot more filing in the beginning, but once you start to master your application, the less and less filing you have to do with the hand file and the e-file. Going in with the e-file, again, we are sealing the cuticle, and then we are, again, buffing out and debulking the nail and making sure that we keep that apex as well, especially for a stiletto nail because it does come to a sharp point, which means it does need a lot more support from an apex than compared to like a square nail, because since the nail is thinner at the end, it does need more support. Now moving on to a coffin nail. A coffin nail is slightly more tapered than the regular square nail. It's not as tapered as a stiletto nail, so you still have that flat free edge at the top, As you can see, I'm going in on each side. Obviously, start off with making sure that the sidewalls are even with the natural nail. And then you're just going to taper in the sides a little bit just like that. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because then you are going to file after application. Like I said in the last section, this is very repetitive. Start off with the sidewalls, making sure they are even and flush with the natural nail, and then getting rid of any lumps and bumps that were created during application. And then you do want to go in with the e-file, seal the cuticle, get rid of all the scratches and marks that you made with the e-file, and then also clean up that free edge. Moving on to a round nail, I'm clipping out the corners but at a lower point compared to the almond nail because you still want those sides to be pretty straight. You just want to be able to round out the end. Again, make sure that those sidewalls are flush and even with these sidewalls. A lot of people get almond and round confused, but as you can see, round is not as tapered in as an almond nail. It still has pretty parallel sidewalls. They're pretty straight. It just comes to a round end. Back with the hand file, same thing. Y'all are gonna be sick of me saying this. Get rid of any bumps, lumps that were created in application. Do most of your work hand filing just so you don't have to do much with the e-file, because with the e-file it's harder to control and you might file too much, and filing too much means you would have to add more acrylic if you compromised your structure on the nail. Same thing with the e-file. You're going to seal the cuticle and then also buff out the rest of the nail, get rid of all the scratches. I personally use the 5-in-1 bit like I mentioned earlier. You don't always have to use the 5-in-1 bit. You can use a sanding band. The nail industry is very subjective. Whatever works best for you is what you should stick to. But that's just something I personally use. This is a final result after design. We have coffin, stiletto, almond, square, and round.